Okay. Come here. Stay out of the camera. Yeah. Right. Let's fix that camera.
Got some great stuff, if you're interested.
Let's see what you have.
Feel free to test the...
The game changer.
All right. Still can't see. Luigi. Luigi. Luigi.
Need some custom hardware? We got a free workbench for all your modifications. Scopes, clip sizes, barrels.
The cutest doggy in the world.
Yes?
Don't lay down, Luigi. Come on.
We got small arms, long arms, ammunition.
Who needs a haircut? Everyone needs a haircut. Step up.
You need a haircut, and you need a haircut, and you need a haircut. Well, actually, you don't need much of a haircut. You're perfect everywhere you are. I love you, Takahashi. Stay you, Takahashi. Into each other.
That's where all of these came from.
America is like all nuclear.
Uranium is named after the planet Uranus, an element discovered shortly after the planet was in the sky. They knew that's an important, elements are important, so they want to name them something cosmic. Uranus. Neptunium, guess who that's named after? Neptune.
Americium? He's covered up Americium.
Pu.
Oh, he covered up PU.
Plutonium. Pluto gets discovered in 1930. This element gets discovered in 1940. It's right in line with Uranus-Neptune. They name it Pluto, on the false pretense that it was a bona fide planet. Pluto got on there on intense. But look at this. We discover all these, so we get to name them. This is Americium, named after America. This is Californium. This is Berkeleyum. Right? These are these are places where you have particle accelerators discovering elements. It's naming rights. Other naming rights, let's go back a little bit. September 11th, 2001. Date we all remember. I was happened 4 blocks from my residence. These are camcorder shots from my window. This is the North Tower on fire. The South Tower had just been hit about 1/20th of a second before this frame was taken. You can see a piece of it punching out. The shadow of that.
Still not used to melee attacks.
Atomized fuel ignited, so it's really just the
Keep trying to block, but the block takes half a second to actually initiate.
Just so you understand, this black building on the left is a 50-story hotel, right? And the towers are 107 stories each. Why am I showing you this? Well, let me just get through it first. So the jet fuel ignites, creates a deflagration wave, and there it is engulfing the entire, and it's the remnants of the plane and people and everything else. Office furniture coming out the side.
You're showing the 2 towers.
Within an hour of that, the towers are just gone. All right, and this is the dust cloud that came after.
I know, people forgot about 9/11.
This is
They
the
did.
street on which I live. So this is 65 minutes after it collapsed. And so this is going on. Shortly after this,
You only kill the weakest of us.
an attempt to
It only makes us stronger.
from
If they
that.
cannot kill one puny human, they are less than nothing.
And this was before I was on his Rolodex, so I could have helped him out here, you know. I could have said, don't say that, okay? So he says, this is quoting biblical Genesis. He says, our God is the God who named the stars. Now, first of all, it's the same God, okay? God of Islam and God of the Old Testament. It's the same. Allah is the same as the God of the. It's the same. So hold that aside for the moment. Hold that aside. What he did not know is that of all stars that have names, 2/3 of them have Arabic star names. Okay. Now, I don't think that's the point he wanted to make. I think he didn't quite get that, and so you know, here they go. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. Not all stars have names, but 2/3 of those that do have names have Arabic names. There we go. Okay? There they go. And you might say, well, how did this come to pass? Where did that come from? What's going on? Because if you think of the Middle East now, and you're not saying, hey, these are folks naming stars. You go back 1,000 years. Islam, 800 to 1100. In that period, it was generally called the golden age of Islam, of Islamic science. Golden age. True gold. There was no greater golden age in the history of the world before or after. Some advances came out of that period in Baghdad. Algebra was invented in that period. Algebra is itself an Arabic word. Algorithm is an Arabic word. Our numerals are Arabic numerals. You ever wonder why? You ever stop and think why they're called Arabic numerals? In that period, mathematics took great leaps and bounds. Agriculture, engineering, medicine, navigation. Star maps, astrolabes were then it also
Oh, no, I can do it much better. I can do it much better here. Wait a second.
it ended.
Won't be able
If
to
you're a
get this.
historian, typically you focus on history as marked by changes of kings and leaders and wars. That's the lens through which many historians look at the past. And so if you ask people, they'll say, oh, the Mongols sacked Baghdad, and so that's why it all ended. If that were the only force operating, then later, when Islamic culture rose, you would still see this tradition of scientific innovation. But it has not recovered. It has not come back at all compared to what was going on in that 300 years. And what you do is you
Oh, he's still alive?
And he was to Islam what St. Augustine was to Christianity. What he did was he taught you how to be a good Muslim. He taught you how to read the Quran and how to obey the commands. Because back then, people were just interpreting it for themselves. He came along, he was an academic scholar. He interpreted the Quran. He said, this is how you must do it. First had social influence, and then political and cultural influence.
Oh, Luigi, I love you too.
And in that interpretation, it included the perspective that the manipulation of numbers is the work of the devil. This cuts the kneecaps out of any mathematical advances that would unfold. Math is the language of the universe. If you take that out of your personal equation, you no longer contribute to the advance of human understanding of that universe. And that absence of Muslim presence in the frontier of science persists to this day. Take a look at the Nobel Prize from 1900 to 2010. I can do this. Do this for the Jews, for example. How many Jews in the world? There's like 15 million tops. Tops. 15 million out of 7 billion people. These are the numbers of Jews who have won the Nobel Prize in the sciences. 25% of the Nobel Prizes. We have a Jewish person in the audience. Congratulations. Okay, fine. This is
smashing.
Something to be extraordinarily proud of. The traditions of Jews in the 20th century is one of education and scholarship. Earlier centuries, it was one of
Damn it, he died too fast.
Study of the Torah did not involve the natural world. This was a later emergence of the Jewish culture to exhibit this. Let's look at the numbers for Islam. So these are Jews. 15 million Jews, 25% of the Nobel Prize. There is 1.3 billion Muslims in the world. These are the numbers. 2.5. I'll give you 3 if you really want to include economics as a full number there. Okay? If you gotta give it a full number...
God, it's so hard to fight in third person.
Now, for me, by the way, you can analyze this in any number of ways. There are 50 times the number of Nobel Prizes, 1/80th the population. There's 4,000 times the impact. I lose sleep at night with the question, how many secrets of the universe lay undiscovered? Because 1.3 billion people who in an ancestral time would have participated in this enterprise and are now not.
Okay, I'm done. I can't.
Whole populations. By the way, there are other populations that never contributed. I'm not going to them and blaming them. I'm talking about a population that already did contribute. It's in the cultural heritage already. All we're asking is to resurrect it. It has not happened. Okay, that's fine. We can. But how about science in America? Uh-oh. Okay, let's see what it takes us. There's enough older folks in here. Old folks. You remember? Raise your hand if you're an old folk. Raise your hand. There you go. Thank you. You remember the day when we used to dream about tomorrow?
Dead.
You remember every week there'd be some article in the newspaper, in the magazine, the city of tomorrow, transportation of tomorrow. the kitchen of tomorrow. Anyone younger than 30 doesn't even know what tomorrow is. They can't even pronounce the word. All right? Sorry for the low res on this picture, but it doesn't matter. That's how we used to think of tomorrow. This was the future in 1988, right? This is drawn in the 1950s and 60s, thinking about the 1960s, thinking about the 1980s. Let's take a close look at what's going on in America. I think we have fear of numbers. For example, okay, here goes one. Maybe it's not fear, maybe it's ignorance of numbers. Okay.
Ah, there it is.
Science illiteracy is rampant in our culture.
Dude, oh shit.
I'm not telling.
Fist! Run!
I've changed my views 360. If you don't remember what 360 degrees is, it is. That is, okay. Now, I wonder, maybe the congressperson did do that. Exactly. Maybe they're just trying to fool you. Maybe they're trying to make you think they changed their mind, but they did not. Okay? I have more respect for them lying with correct math. Okay? But I'm pretty sure he was telling the truth with math ignorance. Half the schools in the district are below average. You know, that's kind of what an average sort of is, right? About half below. That's kind of what, not exactly maybe, but pretty much so. Technically,
What the hell are you doing in there?
What would that be? The median, technically, but still. What the journalist probably meant to say was half the schools are below standards or below grade level. They said below average, which meant they were mathematically illiterate. If that were actually true, something would be wrong with the state of mathematics.
Who knows the best way down off of this cursed tower?
Yes.
Here's one, a little more subtle. 80% of airplane crash survivors had studied the locations of the exit doors on takeoff. So you say, well, I'm going to study where the exit doors are. I want to be in that 80%. That's a good percentage to be in, isn't it? That's good. So, but think about this. So think about, here's, let me just posit a question to you.
You taking no damn elevator down?
100%
Fine.
of the dead people study the locations of the exit doors on takeoff. You would never know because they're dead. All right? So this statistic is basically meaningless to act upon. That's all
horrible.
I'm just saying. This one, you get this a lot. The state lottery is a tax on the poor. We've heard this. Because poor people spend a disproportionate fraction of their income on state lottery.
So that
Does Washington state lottery? So, but really, I don't think of it this way.
Oh, I forgot to put Hode's
Lottery's a tax on all those
gift
people
on here.
who never did well in their math class. That's how I think about it. How about buildings? You go into buildings. 80% of all buildings are missing a 13th floor. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16. I feel like going into all these elevators with a Sharpie, crossing on the floor, putting it, and saying, that's the 13th floor. You're not fooling anybody. This is 21st century America. We have people afraid of the number 13. What happens when you get to lobby and then you go to floors below the lobby? What do they call them? B for basement, SB, sub SBB. Can I buy a vowel, please? Like, what are you doing there? We have perfectly good nomenclature for going below the lobby level. They're called negative numbers, okay? We know how to do this. It is well understood. But of course, this is America. There is a place in the world that has negative numbers. Oh, it's in Germany! Oh my gosh! is this a science museum? No, it's a history museum. Germany. That's a closer look in case you missed it. Okay? There's also bad physics. All right? Now, this illustration requires an explanation.
By the way, doing this on survival was a bitch.
For Holiday Inn. Now, admittedly, this is Holiday Inn England rather than Holiday Inn America. But Holiday Inn is an American company. Now, this is an ad for what a new marketing plan where you can have what they're calling bed warmers pre-warm your bed for you before you go to sleep at night. Okay, so now, the people on either side are the bed warmers. Now, of course, he's looking at her and not him. There's this interesting fact there. But this
Just a waste
is
of bullets.
thermodynamically pointless exercise. Because the only way you're going to get the body heat from those two people is if they are naked in your bed. But for reasons of sanitation, they are not only fully clothed, they are fully insulated. If you're insulated, your heat is not coming out. It stays within all of your clothing, so they are not heating the bed. At all. Whoever thought this up never took Physics 101. If they did, then these two people would be naked. I got another one. Is there any Bayer...
Rex.
The Bayer Corporation, do they have plants out here?
Many thanks for that
No,
timely
good, okay.
rescue.
This is an ad from Bayer, where they are boasting that they send their scientists into the schools to help out. So, Bayer employees volunteer in a hands-on, inquiry-based program, making science make sense, to help kids develop a lasting passion for science. You're on. Try to get them interested. Now, first of all, they've got a black kid and a woman. Like, apparently these are the problem cases that you got to get interested. Like, how about the white kid with the tattoo who just got off the motorcycle? Where's he? Okay? But, okay, so these are the problem kids. Okay? The woman and the black kid. All right, let's see what we're trying to get them interested in. Try to get them interested in why lighter things fall faster than heavier things. That's a tough one, huh? It's tough because that doesn't happen in this universe.
What?
Yes, they would finally fix the ad. You're on. Try to get them interested in why lighter things fall as fast as heavier things. That's the Galilean experiment. But what's clear is that previous ad was written by somebody. Nobody caught the error. It was typeset. It was laid out. It was printed. No one caught the error. Nobody in the entire chain of command, from the first person who composed it to the copy editor of the magazine ad. So what's clear is that that whole chain of people are the ones who should be in this photo, and not these two kids. The American Physical Society meets, it's a sort of my professional physics organization, and choose a city. Occasionally, this one time we met in Las Vegas, but this is what happened here. Vegas asked them never to return to the city. We're talking about America, people. Bad engineering. You know, what is this? Okay, levees broke in New Orleans, 2005. You know, if you read accounts of this, they say, oh, Katrina came in and Hurricane Katrina, bad hurricane. Excuse me, pause, back up. Do you know Katrina was Category 5 in the Gulf? On landfall, it was Category 3. It had already passed over New Orleans. People were sweeping up some of the broken branches in the street. Then the levees broke. The city survived the hurricane just fine. What it is they didn't survive was faulty engineering. That was the problem in 2005. And I submit to you that you look at these images and people hoping to get rescued from their rooftops, and you ask yourself, what country is this? Some of us who are old enough, we used to see film loops of third world countries where you see an absence of infrastructure, people towing, their belongings with an ox through mud. And you say, oh, that's the third world. We live in America. What country is this? The middle of Manhattan, a steam pipe explodes. People died. Steam? Don't we know how to move steam from one place to another? Wait a minute, we're actually still using steam? What? Okay. I'm not going far back in time to get these stories. Bridge collapses. I-35, Minnesota. A bridge collapsed? You go through Europe, there's still bridges standing from the Roman Empire. We can't put a bridge over that, all right? That's not a river, this is a brook, all right? What country is this? Let's go to Los Angeles. Trains collide. People get hurt. Some people die. You think we would have figured this one out? A train comes this way, you don't send another train the opposite direction on the same track. That would be like commandment number 1. All right, Railroads 101. A crane collapsed. Back in New York, a crane collapsed. What, you can't hold up a crane? What country is this? Hurricanes come. We say, run! Now, here's what's interesting. I think these people already know about this, okay? So, this is useless information to all these people. Now, here's what happens. If you are...
Bunch of traffic going one way, and then the sign says, hurricane on the Gulf. That's what they're running.
If you don't have scientists and engineers in your midst, when a hurricane comes or some kind of a natural disaster, your first thought is stockpile food and run. But if you're an engineer or a scientist and the disaster's coming, you say, how can I avert that disaster? I foresee a day where a hurricane forms in the Gulf. You put in some kind of apparatus that taps the energy of that hurricane, and that energy drives the electricity of the city that would otherwise be destroyed by the hurricane had it continued to go through. That's the kind of thinking that needs to go on in this world. What country is this? I'm not going far back in time here. This is, yesterday's news. What country are we living in? There's more what's going on. Profound science illiteracy in this country. Here's a book that I read before I came here. I read it in its entirety. I heeded its advice. I wanted to make sure I showed up for you this evening. So someone has to write this book. An editor says, hey, that's a good idea for a book. A publisher publishes it, they put it on the shelf, and then people buy it. How about this one? This is one. How to Survive 2012. Tactics and survival places for the coming pole shift.
Ah, I see.
Pole shift? Where'd they get that from? The pole? The end of the world? In there is the Mayan calendar. Because clearly the Mayans knew more about astrophysics than any of us do today. Clearly. What? And wait a minute. Next Saturday. Whoa, next Saturday. Whoa. country is this?
First mistake.
What millennium is this? So what's interesting is originally they said the world was going to end May 21st, but then it was revised, and so apparently the 21st is only Judgment Day, so Jesus is coming on the 21st, and I'm guessing that he's really pissed, okay? So, at human beings. So, 5 months later is the...
No one can be strong.
World, as evidenced right here, the end of the world, and there's not much sand left in that clock. You can translate this into any language. There's an audio reading of this, and you can get the printer-friendly PDF version of this account. What country is this? I'll show you where this comes. Answering the question, did human beings, as we know them, develop from an earlier species of animals? This is simply evolution by natural selection. So if you're this, this is countries ranked. Sort of Western countries and countries that are otherwise developed by the modern use of
Strong looks much better now. He's not naked.
The green bar, it means yes to that question, which means that you're convinced by evolution. If you're this sort of amber bar on the right, it means no. And if you're the white in between, it means you're unsure. So America's got to be up there somewhere. No, Iceland, Denmark, Sweden, France, Japan, Britain, Norway, Belgium, Spain, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Hungary, Luxembourg, Iceland, Slovenia, Finland, Czech Republic, Estonia, Portugal, Malta, Switzerland, Slavic Republic, Poland, Austria, Croatia, Romania, Greece, Bulgaria, Lithuania, Latvia, Cyprus, United States of America, edging out Turkey by a nose. There it is.
Wow.
What country is this?
Why is that a debate?
We should just move back to the caves. Let's analyze it a little further. Here's a map.
Why is that a debate?
This map has the area of each country apportioned according to...
Why is evolution a debate?
On the globe, which means it's a normal map. Okay, so... No, so what's...
It doesn't matter what you believe.
So what we're about to do is...
If you came from a monkey, you came from a monkey. Well, we didn't even come from monkeys. That's the thing. I'm sorry. That's
how much.
We didn't come from monkeys. We didn't. We evolved sideways to them. The primate, and then over here you have the orangutan, and then it continues down. And then you have the bigger primate like the gorillas. And then from there, that's splintered off again, and you have the chimpanzee and the gorilla splintered off between two different, the east and the west or whatever, and then you have us. And then from there, you have the chimpanzees. And chimpanzee? No, I'm sorry. At that point, like the capuchin monkey and stuff, it's separated right there again. And that's where we are. So you have to wonder, in that tree, were there other people before that or right next to that? And yes, there were. They were found in caves and stuff like that, the fossils and stuff. We are the species that won. If we weren't here talking about that, then it would be a bunch of other primates that would have evolved sideways to us, taller or skinnier or shorter, whatever. But they had problems, congenital problems, which killed them. Look at the cave people. Us. We're what won. How is that a debate? How is... Oh God, the United States, it's all gray. Oh, the South, I'm in Florida. Oh God. Oh, United States.
Peer-reviewed science
Hey, Puerto Rico believes in evolution, that's funny.
Okay, let's do that. So this is a measure of who's doing the most science in the world. Some countries will shrink relative to that area you see here. Others will expand depending on how active they are in science. So let's check out what happens when you do this. Well, the United States is sitting fat and pretty there, I'd say. That's America. Yeah. Okay. Wait, what's that big purple region away? Whoa, what was that? What's that purple? Whoa! What country is that? Japan, kicking major science butt on the map right there. One of the great tragedies is Africa shrinking to nothing in area on this chart compared with the area it actually occupies in the world.
Sad.
That is a modern day tragedy right there, given the natural resources that are prevalent within it. Europe is huge. They split formerly Eastern Europe, that's in blue, from Western Europe, that's in those shades of pink. So, and there you have Brazil. That's the aerospace industry kicking in there. All right, so you look at this, you say, hey, we're doing pretty good. Tyson, what are you complaining about? Okay? Okay? This is the wrong map. What you want to look at is not how much science is going on. No. You want to look at the change in how much science is going on. From the year 2000 to 2010. That's the trend line. That is the future of the world. Compare the difference in published research papers in all sciences between 2000 and 2010. And you get this.
Whoa.
Europe is even bigger. Japan is even bigger. China is huge. Africa is even smaller. This is the changing landscape of the world. As everyone else understands the value of innovative investments in science and technology in ways that we do not, we slowly fade. This is the fading that worried me when Russia says, oh, you guys want to join us for a mission that will save your West Coast? You say, well, sure, well, we got our space program. We lead the world in space. How about space? We've got some faulty memory going on. One of them is that we're space pioneers. That's a faulty memory. Okay? Yuri Gagarin was launched into orbit 50 years ago, April 12th. We all know that. Did you know, however, that he, and I tweeted this, by the way, he was the fourth mammal to achieve this feat. After dogs, guinea pig, and mice. Then we sent a human, they all Russian, a Russian dog, Laika, guinea pig and mice, then Yuri Gagarin. So let's look at the full list.
Stupid noises.
Dogs, in order, dogs, guinea pigs, mice, Russian human, chimpanzee, American human. Does that sound like we're pioneers here? We come behind Russian mice. The Russians did all this first. They came up with the rocket formula, for goodness sake. This is the formula that tells you that most of the fuel in your rocket that's yet to be burned requires fuel to lift it to a place so that you can later on burn it. That's why the Saturn V rocket, 32 stories tall, the astronauts are in the up a little bitty bit, and all the rest is a bomb, basically. All right? First satellite, first animal, first human, first woman, first black person in space, first to land on the moon with the robots, first lunar rover. They photographed the far side of the moon, Earthrise from the moon, Venus, Mars, spacewalk. Now we have a few firsts. We have a couple. First space docking, first to land on the moon. We crossed the asteroid belt first. First to achieve hyperbolic velocity that escapes the solar system. Okay, but still. This is hardly what you would call pioneering behavior. Let's see what NASA's been up to. NASA, that's how you spell it, NASA, right there.
No way I could pick this.
NASA actually doesn't get much money. People think it gets a lot of money. Well, that's actually quite a compliment to NASA. Most people think NASA gets 10% of the federal budget, 20%. Maybe as little as 5% of the federal budget. What NASA actually gets is 1/2 of 1% of the federal budget. 0.005 times the federal budget. So this is 1/2 of 1%, 1/2 of a penny on your tax dollar. If you pull out a dollar bill and you cut 1/2 of 1% of its width, you don't even get into the ink. You're still in the outer border of that bill. That is NASA's annual budget, and it pays for the space shuttle, all launch vehicles, the Mars rovers, Hubble, space station, astronauts, NASA centers, space missions, all of it. So the people say, "Why are you spending money up there and not there?" That's not that much money. What are you saying? What, you think if we took this money from the federal, if you said, let's not spend this because we have problems on Earth. Oh, okay. Let's take this and give it to the problems on Earth. Is that going to solve those problems? Do you think this little slidging of the money, they put it back as there? Let me keep going here. We somehow believe that we were leaders and visionaries in space. Here's an interesting quote. I'm not that interested in space. I wonder who said it. John Kennedy to James Webb in 1962.
Oh, shit.
That's who said that. How about this quote? There, it's Kennedy again. This is, whether we like it or not, a race. Everything we do ought to be tied to getting to the moon. So it had nothing to do with we're explorers, we're visionaries, with our DNA, we're American. It's like, no, we're at war. Russia is beating us in every measurable way. So I'm angry. I'm angry. So I have to calm down and then sort of take a deep breath and bring to you the cosmic perspective. So now the cosmic perspective is not always making you feel big. Most of the time it makes you feel little. So I'm just warning you before you start applauding. Okay? Now that dude up there, he might applaud no matter what, okay? Who was happy to learn how stupid we are about the universe.
Ooh.
My favorite planet, Saturn, viewed from the front. But let's go behind it and view it with one of our satellites. And you'll view Saturn eclipsing the sun. One of the most stunning images ever to come out of the NASA portfolio. The sun is behind Saturn in this image.
Wow.
And the sunlight is illuminating the outer rim of the upper clouds of the ball. And you see the ring system illuminated from behind Saturn. Now, we're looking towards the inner solar system because the sun is behind Saturn. Saturn's far away. Saturn is 10 times farther from the sun than Earth is. So let's zoom in a bit. I see something there. Wait, what's that? What's a little speck? Oh, that's Earth, by the way. Sorry, I meant to tell you that. That little speck, that 4-pixel speck, is planet Earth. Want to get a feeling for that? Go listen to Carl Sagan recite his own words about a pale blue dot. Where on that speck is everyone you've ever known. All wars that have been fought over temporary demarcations, the soil that exists on that speck. How full of ourselves we are when viewed only from Earth. Other ways to view this. Let me give you an updated tree of life. That's an updated tree of life done in a circular pattern. The beginning of time is in the center, and time extends outward. There are 3,000 species, names of 3,000 species written on the outer rim, but that's only like, 1/10 of 1% of the known species. So these are just sort of
life is actually more like a trunk.
there. And you see the continuous branching, and each branch contains a major sort of commonality of DNA. But in the end, everything comes back because we're all connected. So you say, well, where are we? Oh, okay, we must be up in the animals part, because we're not fungi, and we're not plants, I'm pretty sure of that. So let's zoom into that. Oh, so you are there! Oh, there we are. There we are. Oh, no, I gotta get closer. Wait, we gotta get even closer. Oh, yep, let me get a little even closer. There we go, Homo sapiens. There we go, all pixelated out. There we go. There we go. By the way, seeing trees of life written this way tell us with great strength that it's not we who dominate the Earth. We're sort of participants in an unfolding of the Earth with all the other life forms. And more on that in a moment. I want to offer you, in this denouement of my presentation, just a sense of where we are in the universe. And the only way I can do that is to get you familiar with numbers and their size. So here's the number one, written 3 ways, needs no introduction. If you're unfamiliar with scientific notation, the 0, that's sort of the exponent there, tells you how many places to the right. The decimal has moved to the right of the 1, and it hasn't moved at all, so it's 0, right? A familiar number. Let's go up by a factor of 1,000. The decimals move 3 places. You got 10 to the 3rd, 1,000, metric prefix kilo. I note here and now that drug dealers were metric long before Americans were, okay? Kilos, it was like, first time I ever heard the word kilo were you know, drug busts. I say, wow, they're metric. That's cool. That's all I thought. I was a nerd kid, so that was an okay thought. It wasn't always 50 pounds of cocaine. No, they're measuring it and go up by another factor of 1,000, you get 1,000,000. One with 6 zeros. Remember when computer strength was measured in megabytes and mega? There are 8 million people living in New York. 8 of these are my neighbors in New York. Go up by another factor of 1,000, you get to 1 billion. Carl Sagan's favorite number. In fact, if you bring your chin out and say the word billion, it sounds beautiful. We'll do it together on 3. Ready? First, stick your chin out. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Billion. Oh, isn't that beautiful? That's just beautiful.
1 billion.
That's just beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. Billion. That's a fun number. Anyone here 31 years old? Raise your hand. Got to be a few of you. Very nice. In this year of your life, you will live your 1,000,000th second. Yes, I'm geeky enough to have calculated this.
Sure.
31 years, 259 days, 1 hour, 46 minutes, and 40 seconds. But you have to account for leap days and leap seconds, okay? I'm going to try to make an app that'll do this, but I haven't done it yet. I've been busy doing other things. But I celebrated my own 1,000,000th second with a really small glass of champagne. 50 of these billions. Let's see. I think a neighbor of yours, he's a neighbor, right? Isn't he? He's like, you see him around town, I presume? Not. Okay. His net worth is like $50 billion, plus or minus. I don't know if you know how much that is. I don't believe you know. You don't. In fact, I'm certain you don't, because I would tell you. I would tell you how rich this man is. First of all, I'm charmed by the fact that the patron saint of geeks is the richest man in the world. That's a different world than it was when the richest people were sort of oil barons and steel barons. It's like a geek is the richest guy in the world. That's kind of cool. But 50 billion, I did this math because I walk along the street. You know, I have a job, and I own a home, and I'm walking down the street, and I see a coin in the street. My question to myself is, what is the smallest denomination coin that I'll bend down and pick up? Okay? Given the fact that I have a job, I own a home. So, the penny is staying. I'm not getting the penny. The nickel, nah, I'm not getting the nickel. Dime, if I'm not in a hurry, I'm picking up the dime. Okay? A quarter, well, that's good for parking meters and laundry, plus it's a quarter, right? So I'm picking up the quarter. So for me, the boundary between picking up the coin and not is between a dime and a quarter. So I figured, let me ratio this up to that wealth and ask, how much money has to be laying in the street for Bill Gates to be too busy to pick it up? It's $45,000. That's what it is. 45,000. I said, too busy. Somebody else get that. I got. rich the man is, in case you didn't know. Let's go to 100 billion. I've seen this number before. Where have I seen it? McDonald's. Actually, they had like a Y2K problem with their accounting. They didn't have a third spot, so they went to 99. Then after that, they just said, after Carl Sagan visited them, what do they now say? Billions and billions, of course. But I remember when they had 100 billion, if you lay those hamburgers end to end, you can do this. Start right here in Seattle. Go right across the Pacific Ocean. Float them on a little plate. And you can come around back and come right back here to Seattle. Europe, the United States, and come right back here with your 100 billion hamburgers, and you can do that 52 times. Then with what's left over, you can stack them with what's left over and make a stack high enough to reach the moon and back. Then you would have laid out your 100 billion hamburgers. This is terrifying news to cows, all right? I just let you know. Also 100 billion. Do you realize that in 1 linear centimeter of your lower colon lives and works 100 billion microbes, which is a bigger number, about the same number, as the total number of human beings who have ever lived. That's what's going on in your lower intestine. Yet we like to think that we're actually in charge of things. But from the point of view of the bacteria, we are just a warm, dark, anaerobic location for fecal matter. But it's just a reality check here, okay? We tend to make things nicer for ourselves with words. Like what's the book that has optical illusions? Who doesn't like a good optical illusion? Of course, that's not what they are. They're brain failures. That's what it is. Oh, I can't figure it out. Is the line in or out of the page? Oh my gosh! Those books should be called brain failures. A few more, and then we got a trillion. By the way, can you count to a trillion? Who's my 31-year-old? Yeah, so if you counted one number per second since birth, you'd just be getting to a billion about now. So if you wanted to get to a trillion, which is 1,000 times bigger than a billion,
HQ's new guy,
how many years would that take you?
Oh, thanks for setting up this place. Kind of wish you would have set up a car or something, but at least
31,000 years, right? With simple math.
Lose your nerve?
It takes 31 years to count to a billion.
Of course I do.
31,000 to count to a
Better
trillion.
than you.
So definitely don't try that at home.
We got a package
a trillion seconds ago, somebody painted
he's all ready to sign
those
up,
on a
but
cave
he's got big
in
problems.
Let's Go,
We clear
France.
those problems.
False.
I want more details.
You know how it goes. The dead drop only. I'll mark it on your map.
Have you ever heard the joke? It's like a really stupid, self-deprecating joke. It's say, you know, the French, they don't even have a word for entrepreneur.
Wow. Wait, what? Isn't that French?
Can only be spoken by a monolingual American. So, we have billion, trillion. What's the next number here?
I thought that word was French.
Quadrillion. Someone said zillion? No, almost.
I don't know language. Spanish.
It's about 100 quadrillion is the number of sounds and words ever uttered by all humans who have ever lived. So these numbers are getting really huge, really fast. Billion, trillion, quadrillion. What's next? Quintillion. There's one of my favorite numbers. About the number of grains of sand on an average beach. Even the sand that comes home in your crotch, you know. I counted those. Add all those up. They're in this number. Million, billion, quadrillion, quintillion, sextillion. A 1 with 21 zeros. Of what possible significance can this number have? That is the estimated number of stars in the universe.
Stinks like human.
Stars in the universe.
Stars in the universe.
Hey.
Some people, this depresses them. Among them, this gentleman, a professor of psychology at the University of Pennsylvania. We opened a space show 11 years ago. It was a zoom out from Earth. And Earth shrunk down, and the solar system shrunk down, and it just became one of the stars in the background field. Then our whole galaxy shrunk down, and it was just one of countless other
I like this doctor.
galaxies in the universe. He saw that space show. I am assistant professor of social cultural psychology, University of Pennsylvania. I want to conduct a research project in collaboration with the planetarium. My research focuses on the psychological experiences associated with feelings of insignificance. I'm thinking, damn, bummer of a job. What? What's he like when he comes home? Honey, I'm home. How was work today? Miserable. You know, how does that work?
We offer
How do you even
a
do
wide
this?
variety of medical.
I recently saw the space show at the planetarium, and needless to say, it was the most dramatic elicitor of feelings of smallness and insignificance that I've yet encountered. He wanted to conduct a survey. I'd be grateful we can conduct a simple questionnaire survey at the planetarium. They want to interview people going in and then coming out of the space show. I submit to you that if you go in feeling large and come out feeling small, it meant you went in with an ego unjustifiably high to begin with. The problem is not in the universe. The problem is within you. That's what I submit. Let's take a look at something real quick. Cosmic abundances of the elements. Ranking them
Heads up.
top to bottom. Most abundant, at least. Number one in the universe, hydrogen.
Heads up.
Cool. Number two, helium. Very nice. Number three, oxygen. 4, carbon. 5, nitrogen. My favorite element of them all, other. Okay, so then, how about life on Earth? What's the ranking of elements in life on Earth? Well, all life contains water of some kind or another. Water's made of hydrogen and oxygen. So hydrogen's got to be pretty high up there. Sure enough, it's the number one element in life on Earth.
Of course.
What's next? Oh, we don't actually have helium. Remember, helium is a noble gas. It does not interact with anything. So helium is not in life on Earth. You could inhale it, then you sound like Mickey Mouse. By the way, Mickey owned Pluto, okay? Which is an abomination of the mammalian order. Dogs eat mice, okay? So I had to get to the bottom of that. I called up Disney and I said, speaks, owns a home, pays rent. That's the difference, okay? I know you're burning to know this. Okay, next most abundant ingredient, life on Earth, oxygen. Next, carbon, in order. Next, nitrogen. And together, class, other. We are one for one the same ingredients that appear in the universe. If we were made of like an isotope of bismuth, you might say, hey, we're different. We got something different going on down here. Excuse me. We are the same as the universe. And these elements are forged in the centers of stars. This is actually an image of the center of the galaxy, but there's stars within here that forge those elements. Explode from what we call supernova explosions, scattering their enriched guts across the galaxy, enabling freshly born star systems to contain the basic ingredients of life itself. And this is going on in every single galaxy across the universe. If I can dim the lights for the last two images. This is our nearest large galaxy called the Andromeda Galaxy. It happens to be among the stars of the constellation Andromeda. That fuzzy spiral contains 400 billion stars. These other stars you see in the picture are sitting on our nose. In our own Milky Way, it's as though we're looking past a screen door through the void of intergalactic space to another galaxy. If you pull out the power of the Hubble Space Telescope and say, I'm not going to look at this big galaxy, I want to look at an uninteresting corner of the dark night sky and show me what's there, this is what shows up. This image has 3 stars in it that happen to be sitting on our nose. One of them, if you can still see me, is right here. They have spikes.
For sale.
Another one is directly over me. Here is one at the top. Every other smudge, every other shape in this image is an entire galaxy, from nearby to the distant universe.
Wow.
Every single splotch on this image. This is the Hubble Ultra Deep Field. That's what it's called. And you sit here and gaze upon it and recognize that every smudge is like our own Milky Way, containing hundreds of billions of stars, some of which are forging these heavy elements that comprise...
Why does this require adhesive?
...scattering themselves into their own galaxies.
You get a wrench?
Need some custom hardware?
And our knowledge that we have of chemistry, and our
Why
knowledge
does that require adhesive?
that allows us
This one I can sort of see, yeah, maybe.
apart and separate from this universe. We are one with it. I can say one better than that. Not only are we one with it, because these elements are forged in the universe, and they become part of life as we know it. It's not simply the fact that we are in the universe, but, ladies and gentlemen, the universe is in us. And I know of no more profound understanding or revelation that modern science can deliver but that. And for me, it makes me feel large, not small. Thank you all.
Look alive.
This evening.
Hey, Arturo. We can talk about brains, but maybe you want to consider... I've got a few minutes to browse. Everything...
I'm sorry I went a little long. Because I wanted to make sure we have time for Q&A. And I was looking at the clock. We actually have a little bit of time. I'm actually flying out tonight back to New York. But I have maybe 20 minutes or so. I think that's enough to get some good sort of Q&A action here. Because there's one huge aisle. I mean, there is no aisle in the middle. There's one huge row. And just raise your hand. I will call on you, and I'll list this room has awesome acoustics. If no one else can hear it, I'll just repeat your question. And we'll be folding in questions that have been texted to this special text line that was given to you earlier. Ma'am, right here, yes. And I'll repeat the question. She watches there's a lot of information. She watches Nova Science Now on a regular basis. She's
Fantastic show.
And she's Canadian. Okay, I'm trying to stay with you here. Okay, go on. She's accustomed to the metric system, yes. But all of you are amassing at the border between Canada and America. Are you planning an invasion? Because we have top people checking this out. I just want you to know. Okay, go on.
Don't walk outside the wall undefended. High quality protection
Hey,
for
Mo.
sale.
Need a swatter with a little more stopping power?
Sure. Let's take a look.
Field.
Uh-huh.
Okay, she's complaining that in my show, Nova Science Now, that we give American units often, and she's Canadian, and she wants metric units. Okay, I will take that under advisement. I think I have a slightly different pedagogical outlook. Okay, in America, if you know the metric system, you probably don't need to watch Nova Science Now. So I'm really just trying to reach the people who need the science. And I do have a policy, an editorial policy. I'm executive editor of the series. Editorial policy on how we invoke one unit or another. We will use metric units if the number is out of scale of your everyday life. All right? So I'm not going to give the diameter of the solar system in feet. All right? But if it's the temperature of a room, I'm not going to give that in Celsius because no one will know what the hell I'm talking about here in America.
No.
So that does put a greater burden on the Canadian to adapt to our mysterious ways here in America. Yes, right there. Yes, Huey. Okay, she writes an education blog here in Seattle and wants to know what I would do to change the public school system. So I'm sad about a couple of things. When I look back on my life, and I've done this experiment, we'll do it here live. I ask of myself, in my life, how many singularly influential teachers have I had out of the 100 or so that I've had since kindergarten, right up through college and graduate school, maybe 200 teachers. How many? And it's maybe 3. Then I thought, am I unusual in this regard? So I started asking around. And I've come to find that nobody has more than 5. Nobody. Typically it's 3, maybe 4. And just a
I feel this is supposed to have 2 dots over the O.
Singularly impactful on your life. So how many? 5 here, 2, 5, 3.
I'm investigating.
Who got 8? Was the guy who was... No, did you grow up in America? Did you attend public schools?
Oh my god, I just wrote how do you spell, and it says Halloween.
Oh, Evan's still in the line. Interesting. Okay, so
We got
clearly,
long arms,
with the number 8, he's an outlier from the general statistics
It does.
we've come up with here. So what I would do is the first appearance of the cloning machine, I will stick those teachers in that machine. They will then become the entire teacher supply of the nation, and that would transform the K through 12 educational system. Now, I'd say that only half jokingly, but why is it that out of 100 teachers, 1 or 2 of them actually made a difference in our lives? I bet those are the teachers who... I bet for none of those teachers are you saying, boy, that teacher gave a great exam. That's why they're... Boy, that homework was awesome. This is what you're saying about those teachers? No, that's not what you're saying. You're saying that they had an energy, they had enthusiasm for their field. Yep. That they made you like what they liked, even if you started the class not caring anything about that subject.
My math teacher in high school. That guy is the reason why I even listened to Neil deGrasse Tyson. You need more teachers like my math teacher, who got me interested in actually using my brain, even though I still feel, well, let me explain something real quick. The more you learn, the more stupid you feel. Because the more you know you don't know. So, here's what I think I know. And then I learned this much about what I thought I knew, and I learned that this much was wrong, which makes you question this chunk. But because you now learn that much, now the stuff that you want to learn, all this stuff, is no longer the stuff you think you knew. You know. Now this stuff turned into, I want to know if I'm right about this. But because you just learned this stuff, now you have more questions. So now you just realize, oh shit, there's a lot more that I didn't know. I'm an idiot. So the more I learn, the more that my little grasp of knowledge increases, just a small amount. The bigger exponentially, like it's an amazing world out there. And the people that limit themselves by being closed off and only do one thing, that's gonna screw with them in the long run. And you're not learning. If you're not learning, then what are you doing with your life? There's no point. That's why I can't just sit down and play a video game like most people do. They just sit down and do the same thing over and over. And I'm like, nah, I can't do that. For me, I have to do something. So while I'm doing this, I'm listening to his lectures, trying to get some knowledge.
That's the power that those teachers have. There's not enough of that in the academic system. And I lose sleep at nights wondering how we can boost the number of those teachers.
Too many headings.
So that's the slightly unrealistic solution that I have to that problem. Yes, right here. Yes, second row. Uh-huh. If that's what they do, yes. So the question is, he saw one of my talks where I spoke of when the research scientists, so do you carve your way to the edge of what is known, and there's a boundary there between what's known and what's unknown. Now you want to push that boundary by asking questions of the unknown, and that's how discovery unfolds. And in that lecture I commented that there are some people in society who will invoke either a deity or what they call intelligent design as an accounting for things that we don't yet understand, on the premise that we will never understand it. And I asserted that those people are not useful in the laboratory. Whatever it is they do in life, the lab is not a place I need them to be. I need the people in the lab to say, there's something I don't understand, I'm going to solve it.
If you're
That's
having
a
trouble,
different kind of mentality towards the unknown, and those are the people who make discoveries. Okay. So.
Careful. Mayor's got it in.
Oh, we've got a question. Oh yeah, good. We got a texted question. Go.
Hey, Scava. Got plenty.
What's developing technology?
Let's see what you
am I
got.
most excited about? I can't wait until we just find a way to tap energy more effectively from the Earth. Every time Earth wants to kill us, it's some expression of energy that the Earth is burping up. Okay? If it's not a volcano, a tsunami, a hurricane, a tornado, a landslide, this is all energy getting expressed that we're running from. And what I want to do is run towards it with technologies and say, I'm tapping that energy and driving the power of my cities. And that way, I don't have to pull oil out of the ground. How backwards is that? So that's, okay? Another question. What advice would I give students studying astronomy? To keep looking up. Okay, next.
Really?
It's called a soundbite. Yes. Okay, go on.
In order for the USA to stay competitive in science, and as a superpower, how much funding for science does NASA and others have to increase?
All of it?
Okay, so the United States also recognizes, in spite of my lamenting NASA's low budget, Congress has voted to increase the budget of other science agencies in America, including the National Science Foundation, National Institutes of Health. This is all a good thing. The difference is, of course, when you're in 8th grade, you're not standing up in class saying, when I grow up, I want to be an NSF researcher. That just doesn't happen. That's just not what kids think. The most exposed science we do is NASA science, and that's what kids see all the way down to the cradle. And so if you raise the budgets of the rest of the sciences and don't do it for NASA, then you are undermining the most powerful inspirational force that we've ever come up with. The very fact that people think NASA's budget is bigger than it is the very statement that its expenditures are extraordinarily effective in their impact. In fact, I want to start a movement where all agencies get paid, get a budget equal to what people think they're getting paid, okay? If that were the case, NASA's budget would go up by a factor of 10.
Like they do in Star Trek.
No. Next question. Okay. Start. Okay. It's a really brain dead scheme. The Star Trek classification scheme for exoplanets, which for them are just planets, is it's much more advanced. There's a letter. It's a letter designation that references whether there's a nitrogen atmosphere, whether there's life, how it orbits. It's a much more nuanced classification scheme than anything we've yet to come up with, in part because our data are not that good. You need really good refined data to start dividing things up into their categories. We're not there yet. But I would vote for the Star Trek scheme if we ever had good enough data for that. Do you have another question?
Clip size.
Okay.
Barrels.
So did you finish your question here? You didn't finish your question. Yes. Go.
Fascists in the Commonwealth.
Uh-huh. If you're brought up in a system, in a belief system that prevents you from gaining access to that frontier of discovery, and you transition out of it, there are plenty of religious people who are just fine doing science. And for them, for example, and among them would be Francis Collins. He's a devout Christian, and he's head of the NIH. I mean, for a while he was head of the Genome Project. His significant political influence on the science portfolio of the nation. For him, the science informs his religion rather than vice versa. Okay, and so that's probably the most secure posture to take if you want to continue to participate on the frontier of research. If you start having your religion tell you what science you're going to find, the history of that exercise is one of abject failure. And
more specifically, and this is probably going to die down soon. Oh my God, I hope this dies down. Truth in Genesis religion that popped up a few years back. Something's wrong with people. They need to not do that. The Bible doesn't teach you science. No religion, no book from the past will teach you science as well as a modern book. Of course, there are exceptions. Science books in the past, it's good to see where people got their ideas from and stuff like that, but the truth of the matter is, don't look for science, don't assume that some dude built a boat that was bigger than anything we've ever built today, that could survive a storm that was in the entire planet, which that story was taken from another story, who was taken from another story. It's not right. All right, let me be more specific instead of being so vague. Noah's Ark, that whole story of the 40 days, 40 nights rain that took the whole world. When they wrote that, they don't know that it was the whole world, but let me just venture forth into a different thing. That story was taken from a Hindu story, and that Hindu story was most likely taken from a Sumerian story. Almost everything on it lines up. Look it up. I don't know the exact stuff on it, but because I forgot. Not that I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's mostly I forgot. So that's just my recommendation to whoever watches this. Go look up the damn story. I don't need to do shit. I'm playing my game and listening to it. I did the research. I just forgot it.
Might as well just really just go back home, because it's not going to work. The history of that just demonstrates that it doesn't work. So that's how people do it. They've done it. Balcony, yes, right there, sir. What makes globular clusters stable? Woo. It's got 100,000 stars, and they all like each other because they all feel each other's gravity, and they all have some motion sideways, and so it's this beehive, all gravitationally bound together. Occasionally, you get a couple of stars that have 3 stars, and one has like 2 come together, and a third one sort of zips around and comes out again, and there's an energy transfer. When that happens, you can actually kick a star to have higher than the escape velocity of that system. And so a globular cluster will slowly evaporate into the galaxy. Very slowly. They're actually quite tightly bound. But when this happens, you can do models of this, and you just see stars interact in a cosmic ballet choreographed by the forces of gravity. And when that unfolds, you see a star get kicked out. In fact, most stars in our galaxy, all models show, were born in a cluster. And the action of nearby stars in a kind of a flyby looting tends to disrupt these clusters over time. Globular clusters spend most of the time outside of the disk, and so they're not sort of harassed as often by the gravitational field of gas clouds and other stars. So globular cluster is just fine. Gravity keeps it nice and tight, and they're beautiful to look at in a telescope. Oh, the center of by the way, a globular cluster through a telescope and through a photograph, it looks pretty dense, but the average distance between stars remains huge. It's not so dense that you're going to get some kind of a black hole in the center. It's not like the center of the galaxy, for example, where there's a lot of very dense action going on. Globular clusters, most pathways through it won't even ever hit a star. Mostly empty space. Yeah, it's more. How did you pick your major? How did I pick my major? Okay, so I went alphabetically, and I got to astronomy first, and then what? No, I picked my major when I was 9 years old in a family visit to my backyard planetarium, the Hayden Planetarium in New York City.
Wow.
Good.
He visited the Hayden Planetarium, and that was his goal.
I'm in there as a kid. I sit down, they dim the lights, the stars come out.
I never had that when I was growing up.
And I say, oh, that's a nice hoax. Because there were countless thousands of stars on that dome. And I knew that wasn't right because I'd seen the sky from the Bronx. There were 12 stars in the night sky. So this couldn't be right. It just couldn't be right. So I said, but I'll let them go with it. You know, I'll just allow this. And I realized later on that this is the real sky. And between age 9 and 11, the universe called me. In a way that, in fact, I had no choice in the matter. I am being pulled along by cosmic forces beyond my understanding. So I've been thinking about the universe since age 9. Any 9-year-olds in the audience? There were a couple. I said, there you go, 9-year-old right there. That's a high five in the air. There you go. A couple, he said only one more, but why don't I take 2 and then answer them in half the time? How about that? That should add up. Yes, ma'am.
Next time, fight better.
Wait, but, oh, whoa.
They just put the same animation.
Oh, she said, I'm such a huge fan of yours and the planetarium, but, okay. Okay, so she just changed her sign here. Oh. She said I seem light on my feet. Am I a dancer? At one time in my life, long ago, I was a performing member of 3 different dance companies. And they were like college troops, not like Bolshoi or something. It was, but they were, I mean, we had hard workouts, and if I ever give a talk in a performance space, I take off my shoes because how could you not? I mean, you know, it's not a lecture hall, so I've longed to be in the dancing shape that I once was, but when I was dancing, I wasn't writing books. So that is simply a chapter in my past. And I quote for you 2 or 3 lines from Desiderata. I am taking kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering my things of youth. Question right here, yes. Louder!
What did she say?
Did you guys get that in the upper corner there?
No! Tell me!
Awesome acoustics. I don't even need the microphone. Well, in some ways, we're traveling in time now. We just happen to be prisoners of the present in the eternal transition from the past to the future.
I already think we're going to time travel.
Oh, he said, give me a real answer, buddy. All right. If this were New York, that would have come out much more threatening.
Time to
than it
go.
actually did.